Hello, this is my hopefully brief review for Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. I just finished doing a review of Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and it was almost 20 minutes long, so I'm gonna try and not talk about as much what I've written down here about Revenge of the Sith. I'm gonna try and keep it a bit brief, a bit shorter, hopefully. I'm gonna start with this film is from 2005, it's nearly 20 years old. I'm going to start by mentioning the opening shot with Anakin and Obi-Wan in their starships and the Battle of Coruscant. I thought the CGI there was fantastic. I love of course, the "this is where the fun begins" line. The vulture droids on top of General Grievous's ship. We get to see General Grievous's introduction with his coffin, and then he says, "What's the situation, Captain?" I love the chemistry between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, and their synergy was pretty cool when they're in the elevator aboard Grievous's ship. And I love the fact that Anakin's saying to Obi-Wan, "I'm not leaving you, Master," and he's trying to destroy the buzz droids. And then R2D2 takes out the tiny little droid by aiming for his eye. That was pretty cool. Then of course we get General Grievous saying, just as Count Dooku predicted, with the two Jedi on board, just as they're running towards Count Dooku. We get, of course, Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku. We hear, of course, like we get Christopher Lee's iconic voice. We get to see Christopher Lee deliver the line, "I've been looking forward to this," and then Anakin says, "My powers have doubled," and then Count Dooku says, "Good, twice the pride, double the fall." I thought that was just a great line, and delivered by Christopher Lee. It was excellent. And then we of course see Anakin decapitate Dooku. I thought that was a scene was done well, with Palpatine telling him to kill him, and then Anakin afterwards is quite noticeably, I don't know if you'd use the word upset, but he's unsettled by what he's just done, and he says, "I was an unarmed prisoner. I shouldn't have done that. I wasn't the Jedi way." I thought that scene was everything there was just positive. I really like the opening scene, this opening for Revenge of the Sith. You get the ray shields, then Anakin's like, "I suggest patience," and Obi-Wan's impressed by him. He's like, "Patience? I'm glad to hear that that's your suggestion." I thought that was a nice little moment. We get the interaction between Grievous and Anakin. I thought, "You'd be older. You're shorter than I expected." That was a kind of funny line. Then he says, "Jedi scum." That was a decent. I was, once again, the opening, just more positives. And then Obi-Wan delivers another iconic line of his where he says, "Not to worry, we're still flying half a ship." Signature sarcasm from Obi-Wan. And then there's the landing on the runway, and I've always kind of wondered, why is there still a runway in the future of Star Wars? If Star Wars is the future of Earth, or it's future of human civilization, maybe there's still airplanes or old-fashioned modes of transport, but it's just a bit strange how they got a runway. And I suppose it came in handy in this situation, so maybe it's an emergency backup scenario. And then we of course get the fire engines on the right and the left, and then Obi-Wan delivers another iconic line, another happy landing. And Anakin and Obi-Wan have that interaction where it's who gets the credit, and Anakin's being humble and he's saying, "It was all thanks to your training, Master." And then Obi-Wan's like, "I'm not brave enough for politics. You are the hero today. Go and enjoy your moment in the sun." And then they have a brief interaction about how, you only owe me, I only owe you 9 times, not 10. That business on Kato Minoda, or whatever planet it was, that doesn't count. There's much more positives with the interactions between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And then we get an interaction scene between Grievous and Lord Sidious. And then we thought that was alright, and they talk about the end of the war is near. Anakin has a dream about Padme potentially dying, and he's nervous, and he tells Padme that you die in childbirth, and I suppose that was, what do I say, foreshadowing, but I was just them revealing of what was about to happen. You know what I mean? If you'd watched episodes 4, 5, and 6 before you watched episodes 1, 2, and 3, you knew what was on the cards. You knew what was just round the corner. We get Yoda talking to Anakin about Padme, and then Obi-Wan saying in another scene, "Be careful of your friend Palpatine," and Anakin gets appointed to be Palpatine's representative on the council, but then he has that brief, unpleasant moment with the council, which is, "You're on the council, but we do not grant you the rank of Master." I thought that scene, another positive. That was another positive, in my opinion. Anakin and Obi-Wan, there's a scene in which Obi-Wan says to Anakin, "You're too close to the Chancellor." And then we, of course, get Windu, Yoda, and Kenobi to also kind of continue in that conversation by mentioning, is he not the chosen one? And then Yoda says, a prophecy could have been misread, actually. Maybe it was misread. Anakin and Padme have another scene together in which, like, Padme brings up, are we maybe on the wrong side? And Anakin says to her, you're sounding like a separatist. It's another scene that I thought was kind of interesting. I wonder sometimes if there's, like, references here to human history and, like, the Cold War, or maybe, like, World War II, or maybe, like, if the prophecy, if I had to speculate, maybe that was a George Lucas's, took inspiration for, like, divine revelation. Maybe, like, they misinterpreted this, misinterpreted that, or something akin to that. If I had to defend George Lucas the best I possibly could, maybe that was what he was trying to go for. We of course get the scene in which Anakin and Palpatine discuss Darth Sidious. There's a few great lines of, all who gain power are afraid to lose it. Anakin defends the Jedi and says, like, the Sith rely on their passion for their strength. And, like, he says, like, Jedi think only of others. And then Sidious brings up Darth Plagueis the Wise could defeat death, unnatural abilities on the dark side, and Anakin's intrigued. And he says, Palpatine delivers that line, he was so powerful, the only thing he was afraid of was losing his power. And then he gets that moment where he says, like, which of course he did, because he taught his apprentice everything, and then he killed him in his sleep. And then he delivers that iconic moment, ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself. And that iconic Ian McDiarmid moment was just brilliant. Then we get to see, of course, Kashyyyk, with the Wookiee home planet, and I want to talk about that and how, like, that's actually inspired directly from Northern Vietnam. And that was something you see actually in Kong Skull Island, the 2017 film, which Samuel L. Jackson's also in, fun fact. Kong Skull Island, you see Northern Vietnam, and Kashyyyk is directly influenced, inspired by that scenery. I've seen photos, it looks beautiful. So I can understand why George Lucas decided to go for that for the Wookiee homeworld. What else can we talk about? I don't want to spend too much time talking about some stuff that might not be that... Well, I'll try to keep this review shorter than the last one. The art design for the person when Obi-Wan gets sent to Utapau to interact with the clones to confront General Grievous. We of course get the General Grievous lightsaber fight. General Grievous has got 4 lightsabers. Obi-Wan and Grievous have that chase scene. There's, like, the giant lizard. There's the person who Obi-Wan originally interacts with. That's got a great art design that I'm quite a big fan of. I think the art design there was fantastic. The Obi-Wan Grievous fight scene was more on the positive side than the negative side, but I'll say that a negative might be, in my opinion, like the giant lizard and the giant wheel. I suppose I would say it maybe just borders on becoming like a video game, maybe just a bit too CGI-y, if you know what I'm trying to say. It's just maybe a bit too artificial, perhaps, if I had to maybe just felt maybe like it was bordering, maybe felt like at times it would have been better off in a video game. It was just, if you know what I'm trying to say about that, it was fine. I wouldn't necessarily it was a massive negative, but I would say it would have maybe been better in a video game. Chase scene was just a giant lizard, the giant wheel, maybe just could have been better. I like the Obi-Wan so uncivilized line. That was another positive in my opinion. And then Obi-Wan getting reinforced by the clones. That was kind of cool. Grievous's eyes, here's another positive. Grievous's eyes and the close-up on Obi-Wan's eyes. That was a nice positive. And then of course, Anakin informs Chancellor Palpatine, like, what's happening. With, of course, with the battle of Grievous and Obi-Wan. And then there's, like, Palpatine's look at the Death Star and Anakin saying, I should be there with him. And this leads, of course, to Palpatine's reveal with Anakin. And I feel like that was just a great moment where Palpatine was slowly placing the seeds of that was placing more seeds of distrust of Anakin of the Jedi Council. Was like, it's unsettling that they don't trust you completely. And then he says, don't you wonder why they don't make you a Jedi Master? And then Anakin's like, I know there's things about the Force they're not telling me. And Anakin's saying, you're the Sith. Then it eventually gets to the point where Anakin's saying, you're the Sith Lord. And Palpatine compliments Anakin even after he's revealed himself. You have great wisdom, Anakin. Know the power of the dark side if you want to save Padme. And then, well, of course, we get the fight scene. I've already mentioned Obi-Wan and General Grievous. Anakin tells Windu about Palpatine, and then Anakin's in the council chambers, and the music that they see when it's Padme's ruminations, I think it's the name for the John Williams music. I like that music, and I thought that was a nice scene when Anakin's sitting in the Jedi Council contemplating the future. I thought that was a good scene. And then we get the Windu and the Free Jedi versus Sidious. That's next. I thought the Free Jedi dying quickly, I've heard some explanations for it, but I'm just going to say it. That was definitely a negative. Windu held his own because he's pretty damn powerful. And then, of course, Anakin runs to intervene. And this is something that I want to mention. Windu beat Sidious. Or did he? Did Palpatine sense Anakin and deliberately made it so that Anakin would walk in, see Windu having the upper hand, and Anakin's sympathy for Palpatine would come into play? That's something that I've toyed around with the idea, and I think it's an interesting concept to contemplate. I think that's an interesting question to ask. Anakin then, of course, stops Windu, and Palpatine says the iconic unlimited power line. And then Palpatine with that new voice after he reveals himself and his face is deformed. He says, he says that line to Anakin. I thought that was just a cool voice, kind of robot-y in a way. And here's a negative, though. A negative that I'm going to talk about for Revenge of the Sith. In the lightning confrontation with Windu, Palpatine says to Anakin, "I have the power to save the one you love." But then just minutes later, he's saying, if we work together, we can learn the secrets. There's only one who's been able to cheat death, and we can maybe figure it out. And that was something where, to me, it's like minutes before you were saying, I have the power, as in you've got the power. But then minutes later, he's saying, if we work together, we can learn the secrets. I just feel like that was something. I just feel like maybe Anakin should have called him out for that, in my opinion. I was more on the negative, in my opinion. Then, of course, after this encounter, we get Yoda sensing what's just happened, and he then, of course, senses Order 66. And now, I'm getting close to the end. I'm dragging on here. This interview is just as long as the last one. We get the iconic line, "Once more the Sith shall rule the galaxy and we shall have peace." Commander Cody gives Obi-Wan his lightsaber, and then Order 66 happening, and that's a great scene, a fantastic scene. Bail Organa tries to get into the Jedi Council, but then Jedi headquarters, but then they send him away. Yoda manages to stop Order 66 happening to him, and then he manages to flee Kashyyyk. And then there's the line for the younglings to Anakin, "There are too many of them," which I want to say it's more on the negative side, but I feel sorry for the child actor, in that children in films don't exactly have as much experience as the older actors, so they obviously look bad by comparison. But if I was a child actor, I don't think I'd deliver much better of a line. R2-D2 and C-3PO, no. Once again, I feel like that's something I need to bring up. I mentioned this in the last review. I'm not 100% sure. I like the fact that they know about the Padme-Anakin romance. That was more on the negative, in my opinion. I want to mention this. Palpatine almost being assassinated, claiming that the Jedi were trying to assassinate him, names Anakin as his apprentice, his adoptive heir, and then turns the Republic into an empire with his big speech. If I had to speculate on what all that was influenced by, Julius Caesar with Augustus. That was most likely what he was inspired by. Then, of course, we get Mustafar. Anakin goes to Mustafar to destroy the Separatists and turn off all the droids. Mustafar, Mordor with Lord of the Rings, and then also at the end of Star Trek 3 on the planet. That was obviously an inspiration for George Lucas, if I had to guess. And then Anakin slaughtering the Separatists. I thought that was a scene done well. Palpatine gives his big Galactic Empire speech. Padme delivers his "So this is how Liberty dies" line with thunderous applause. That line was a great line by Natalie Portman. And then, of course, we get Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting each other. And then Obi-Wan learns that Anakin's the father. Yoda and Sidious. Those were just great fight scenes. And I think the film just came to a pretty epic ending. I'm going to end it, hopefully, in the next 20-30 seconds by saying Revenge of the Sith ends on a pretty powerful, emotional note. Some great lines, some decent fight scenes. And Anakin burning, and then we get, of course, get the birth of Darth Vader and the birth of the twins at the same time. That was done well by George Lucas. And then Leia is on Alderaan, and Luke is on Tatooine with Obi-Wan Kenobi looking after him. And I think overall I would say Revenge of the Sith is definitely a film that I would say is more on the positive than the negative. I'm going to end it there and say thanks for watching.